Welcome to Coming Alive, a podcast with Berry Michels and Phil Stutz, where you'll learn actionable tools to fight the habits that sabotage you so that you can become the person you're meant to be. Brian Carroll, who performs under the name Buckethead, is one of the top 10 fastest guitar shredders of all time. A world-class guitarist, he has produced close to 300 studio albums. Primarily, he works solo, but he's also performed with Bootsy Collins, Bernie Worrell, Iggy Pop, Viggo Mortensen, and was a member of Guns N' Roses from 2000 to 2004. Brian's YouTube videos regularly top millions of views, and personally, I can tell you that for anyone who loves music or is even remotely interested in the guitar, they are truly mesmerizing. Really, check them out. Search YouTube under the name Buckethead. What his legions of fans may not know is that he is also one of the most generous, soulful human beings I have ever met. For more on Buckethead, go to www.bucketheadpikes.com. Brian Carroll, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thanks, Barry. I want to say thanks for what you just said. I appreciate that a lot.
You're welcome. So let me ask you a question that I usually get to at some point in every interview, which is, what have you found in your life that has held you back the most? In other words, in the parlance that we use, what is your part X? How would you describe it?
I have definitely let fear stop me. I definitely have been cowardly with a lot of things because I'm scared. And I think that fear has just kept me kind of paralyzed for doing a lot of things that I know I should do. And I'm constantly trying to battle that.
Mm. Can you give me an example specifically of what fear has kept you back from? Maybe if it's not current, maybe something from your past.
Well, I really, my goal is to make an amusement park. I definitely think just trying to call people and develop relationships, and I've had some just tough times with business. So it's like, I know that I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to get it going, and even on the small scale, it's hard to just even call anyone, so it's like, how am I ever going to make the park if I can't even call one person, but that's what I want to do. So
it's really interesting. I just want to make a point here, which is that I never would have realized this until I became a therapist, but making phone calls, particularly cold calls to people you don't necessarily know that well, is one of the things that almost everyone I've ever treated dreads. They dread it. It wouldn't seem like that big a deal to just pick up the phone and call somebody, but for whatever reason, that feeling of being exposed, of imposing on someone, of feeling like they're going to think I'm an idiot, or they're going to feel like I'm taking advantage of them or something, whatever your projection is, it really scares people. And it's very interesting because the most successful people in my practice are not necessarily the smartest or most talented. They're the ones who make the most phone calls. It seems crazy, but that's
I understand.
Yeah. So, are there any tools that you've used that have helped you overcome that fear and allow you to, do what you were afraid to do?
The first time we spoke, you told me about the identity being on the inside or the outside, which still is probably the greatest lesson. When I think about that, it's definitely given me courage to do things, because I'll see myself thinking about, is this person going to say this, or are they thinking that? And then when I go to the inside, meaning my identity's on the inside, I feel the power of that. I can just do it then, and I'm not caught up in wondering what people think. It's just it's quick. It's like, I don't really have to think about it, you know?
Yeah.
But it's almost like I can tell the shift in a way, but when it happens, it doesn't, I'm not really thinking about it anymore. But when I look back on it, I can tell, oh, I was able to do that because I wasn't on the outside. I was on the inside. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. Let me see if I can explain it to somebody who's never been exposed to what we're talking about, and you tell me if I'm getting it right. I think what I recognized about you immediately is that you're an extraordinarily talented musician, and that if you weren't willing to make phone calls to advocate for your music or to advocate for the amusement park you wanted to make or whatever, that in a sense you were devaluing what was inside of you, and you were putting other people's reaction to you, a reaction, by the way, that you didn't have the courage to actually experience, but you were just imagining in your head. You were putting their opinion over this God-given talent that you were born with. And so what I tried to explain is that your identity, you can either organize your identity about what comes back to you from the outside, or at least what you imagine is going to come back to you from the outside: criticism, rejection, being put down, et cetera, et cetera. Or you can organize it around what is already within you that you have to bring to the world. And when you organize it around what's inside of you, then you're more willing to take action on those things and not care what the reaction is. If it's good, fine. If it's bad, that's fine too. I'll just move on to the next action step that I have to take.
That's great.
Is that
yeah.
Good. Yeah.
That was a huge thing to learn. So thanks for teaching me.
Help me understand how that helped you. Did it give you the courage to make the phone calls, or did you just do what? In other words, exactly how did that help you? I want to understand, and I want them to understand internally the shift that took place once you understood that.
I mean, it just seemed like a freedom, like a real big freedom of not worrying about things and really doing what I felt from the inside. Like when you're like a little kid, and well, for me, like when I was little, I'd just play and create all these worlds, and I didn't have any knowledge of what I was doing. I just did it, and it almost reminds me of that same, like opening that door back up to that world of like flow. And just like you had said when you first said it to me, you said that the flow is what you want to honor, the flow, and that it feels like that really helps get to that place, you know, that particular awareness of that am I on the outside or on the inside.
Yeah.
And then now I try to be in any, I don't do it enough, but I wish I do notice, oh, I'm out. I'm worrying about something, or, you know, and then I see like I need to.
I think that's really important what you're saying now, because what it says is that to a large degree, we're not even aware that we're making a choice. We just get worried or inhibited or stuck inside. And what we don't realize is, oh, there's a part of me that's actually putting more value on the response I'm going to get from somebody than on what I have to bring to them. It's not necessarily a conscious choice. It's just kind of like a default mode that we go to. And at least if you know, wait a minute, no, I'm making a choice right now, and it's not a choice that honors me. It's a choice that gives everyone else way too much power over me. Power, by the way, which most people don't actually want to have, you know, kind of thing. Oh. That then enables you to make a different choice.
That's amazing to know that, you know.
Thank you.
It's still like mind blowing.
Thanks. So tell us, look, I've known you a long time. I know that you've gone through some hard times. What's the hardest thing that you've ever gone through? And the reason I'm asking you this, by the way, is that the one thing I've learned as a therapist is no matter how well put together a person seems on the surface, every single human being I've ever met by the way, including myself, has gone through hard times. And it just helps people to hear about them.
Yeah, well, really recently, I have a heart problem where my heart beats out of rhythm. And it's been doing it for a long time, but recently it just really like kicked up into a really intense, and I really didn't know what was going on. And I just like tried to deal with it and let it do what it did. And then eventually it would stop, but it got really intense. So I went to the doctor and they said, "Oh, you're on the verge of having a stroke." And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't," because I had felt so good prior to having it. Like, I was just doing pretty well and everything. So they suggested I had this thing called an ablation. So they like go in and freeze your heart, and it's supposed to do something with the nerves, because they said my heart was fine. It's just that it could be a genetic thing. They didn't really know, but so I had that procedure and it didn't really stop it, and I'm still dealing with it. And I take medication, which is tough because I never took anything my whole life. I just tried to not, ever take any kind of like anything really. But although if I eat food or drink something, probably that's worse anyway. But so it's been really difficult because it's scary, and it comes on, and I feel like I lost like half of my, like even walking across a room is difficult. Luckily the medication, I'm thankful for it because it's kept it, from going berserk, but it's pretty intense. So, I mean, honestly, having all the tools, using the reversal of desire and the times it comes on, and even the thing we just discussed about I don't know how you would word it, but writing in the journal, because I like to write in the journal a lot. It seems like now I'm sort of like letting this thing, it sort of exists now in me, and I can't really escape it. It's almost always I'm aware of my heartbeat or aware of the intensity of my heartbeat or whatever. It's just never something that I had ever experienced. So now it's like, it definitely kind of scares me, but I also see that it's also doing a lot of good, because now I'm like, well, I better do all the things I want to do. It's forcing me to really, and I've been actually doing a lot of stuff, like even doing this. I feel like I should do it just because I would regret if I didn't.
This podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. I wouldn't, I don't know. I just feel like an urgency now more, which I should have felt anyway, but
So the reversal of desire helped you because you were able to use it to get through the fear that you were experiencing?
Yeah, when it happens, I'll use it so that I can calm myself down. Because if it's intense, which it can be really intense, it helps just like, think, I don't want that to rule my life.
Yes.
If my heart goes out of whatever, I don't want to just be sitting around going, when is it going to come back? Or I'll practice now during it. I practice lighter, because if I exert myself, then
practice guitar.
Yeah. It'll definitely, and it's almost like it's training me to play lightly, more in a lighter way. And it relaxes me. When I play that way, it relaxes me. So I'm just trying to use it, trying to get positive things from it instead of just looking at it like, oh, here it is again. Who knows what's going to happen. Or, it definitely it's definitely taken me down pretty good.
It really sounds like you're making an incredibly concerted effort to turn what would freak anyone out into something positive, which is really the basis of a lot of the work that Phil and I do. Look, negative things are going to happen to everybody. And particularly events in your body are so reminiscent of mortality and death that they freak us out, completely, and have the potential to stop us in our tracks. But what you're doing, what I'm hearing you're doing is, number one, you're not letting it stop you. You're using the reversal of desire to plow through it and keep taking action. Number two, you're actually learning to be observant about your own thinking. And if you get too fixated on your heart, you turn away from that fixation and pour yourself into whatever it is that you're doing. And number three, and probably the most important of all, what you said was there's something about this brush with mortality that has actually made you more alive. It's actually made you realize, oh my God, my time is limited. I mean, obviously you always knew that, but I think all of us live as if we had all the time in the world. And something like this says, no, I don't. I have to use every moment. Every moment matters.
Yes, that's good. Totally. I mean, the day after I had that procedure, I recorded a record with my friend. I just lied in bed and I recorded it because I felt like, I just felt like I'm here still, I don't want to sit around and mope, and that really came from you, like just you giving me so much over the years, just building that up, like that kind of strength of like, don't let this take you out, just do it in the face of it. Because yeah, it could be gone tomorrow. Anybody could be gone. But like for me, I was just like, that was a heavy experience. I want to play right now.
That's amazing.
And I want to play that experience, because I've never experienced something. And I was so like wiped out too. And it's weird when I've really played like in that state before, but it's like just to play in that state, there's feeling in that state, there's emotion in there, and I just tried to play that feeling,
I can imagine, even though you were still probably under the influence of the anesthetic, that there was still a lot of emotion given what you were going through.
Yeah.
What's so funny?
The anesthetic, just, that was weird stuff.
Yeah. Something about what you're talking about right now makes me want to ask this question, even though I have no idea what connection it has to what we're talking about. When I watch you on YouTube, you almost get into an altered state when you're playing. It's so clear. And I'm just wondering, what does that feel like on the inside? Like, what are you thinking? What are you feeling when you're in a flow in a concert and you're just really gone,
I mean, it's sort of like, I don't know how to put it. I love the feeling of it. I mean, I think that's why I like rides, because it sort of reminds me of like you're on a ride in a weird way. Like you're not really thinking. You're just trying to ride the wave or ride the feeling, and it just kind of builds on itself. And if you really are gone, you can really it's a very incredible state. For me, it is, I can't speak for anyone else, but I know that it's just like you're kind of away from it. You're kind of away from your physical. You're just kind of, I don't know. You said it good.
But it's interesting because it looks like your fingers, and you really should look at these videos because they're phenomenal. But it looks like your fingers have a life of their own, almost like you're having an out-of-body experience, and your fingers are moving by themselves, and they're moving so fast. It's incredible. Is that?
What were you going to say?
Is that what it's like?
I mean, I'd say it is. If I can. I mean, and you've helped me a lot with that, because I know last tour there was a show where I would usually. I remember like a couple of nights before this, I hope this applies, but I felt like everything was just, I was like because I play in this particular tour, I was playing alone. And so everything I did, I felt like I was getting it back. It was like a complete loop, from the crowd to me, then that, like, it was this incredible experience, like one of the best times I've ever experienced. And then a couple nights later, everyone's just standing there, and I heard some guy talking really loud, like off to the side, and I was like, oh man. And but what was so great was I had talked to you, I don't even know, it was really close to this time. And you just said, you're pushing, you're giving to them. You don't want anything from them. Mm-hmm. And now that experience, I remember the most because I did that. Like usually I'd go, oh man, let me just get through this one because we got 7 more shows in the next whatever nights. And I really pushed out, I just said, no, I didn't really think about it a lot. I definitely had that feeling of like, all right, I'm going to go up and try to just give it, like try to forget and go like back to the identity thing. Like, don't worry about them. You do what you do and you don't want nothing from them. Like you had taught me, and, it was incredible. It was like I remember that show more than the show where everyone, because I felt a shift from myself that I didn't want anything. And I got deeper and deeper into that state of like what you said, like your outer body experience. So I felt like, wow, this is awesome. I didn't know I could do this under the circumstance. And I don't know if I'll be able to do, hopefully I feel like that was like definitely a step, like something changed after that show. Cause I wasn't, thinking about like, oh, they're not into me and the guy's talking. I'm just gone. I'm just going to go for it, or I don't know. I didn't even really think about it. I just did it,
That's great.
And, so that was really incredible.
It's interesting because as you talk, I really get the arc of the time that we've known each other from the first session where it was really just phone calls. Just your identity is inside of you. You have something to give. Don't pay attention to the feedback that you get from the outside. Keep your identity inside. And the reason I'm saying this is that anybody can practice this and get to the point where they're standing up on stage alone in front of however many people you were in front of, and nobody's responding to you, and some asshole is talking, in the middle of the performance, and you're just in a flow state completely. So to me, that's like the pinnacle of any creative experience, is that you are just in a flow and you really don't care whether people are taking it in or not. And by the way, sometimes people are taking it in, but they're just more quiet about it, than the other audience would be.
Yeah, that's my own mind going, oh no,
right.
But I don't, you're right. They could have been, that's their personality or whatever. I just,
a lot of people assume that it's fairly easy to become successful when, in my experience, it takes a tremendous amount of hard work. If you look at Brian's YouTube videos and see the level of technical expertise, you can see that it reflects tens of thousands of hours of practice alone in a room, just practicing over and over and over again. So, it's a cliche, but most musicians seem to suck at self-discipline, self-discipline meaning just getting themselves to do hard work. How are you with that? How are you? Obviously you must have been very, very good at that with learning music.
I know, I just I love to do it. So I didn't think about it,
it didn't even seem like hard work to you.
I didn't see it like that. It just kind of took over, I just would be in my room playing, and that was it. I didn't really know. And when I look back on it now, I'm like, whoa, that's crazy in a way. But I'm glad I did. I still don't think about it that way. I just it just goes back to what you're saying about losing yourself. It is still sort of that same flow of, you're just kind of. And honestly, since you've taught me, I feel like I've gotten better at getting back to being more present in the moment. So if I'm because I've been trying to play classical lately, and I'll try to really I don't really work on it. I just hear it as it's happening, and I try to play very subtly and then very intense, explosive, a lot more dynamically in those pieces. As when I was younger, they were kind of in a certain, they were just at a certain kind of volume or something. Now it's but it's almost as if I can play my life through a song, you know, or like play Bach, like I was playing this Bach thing. And it's like, I played it for a long time, but now it's like, I don't know. This is different for me to play it. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It makes total sense. Just elaborate on that, on what you just said, playing my life through a song.
I mean, it's kind of having experiences of whatever somebody has in their life. And then for me, the last 10 years have been really intense, like from emotionally. But because of that, I feel that it's deepened that part of my playing. You know, it seems like, at least it feels deeper to me. I really can feel things more intensely. And then I can think, or even sort of as I'm playing, see things in my mind or have memories. And those things I can just put them through the music, you know, and it's just different than it used to be.
This is, I think, such an important point, and it's so hard to articulate, so forgive me if I don't say it well, but there's a difference between technical expertise, which you definitely have, and the feeling with which you play. And that feeling requires life experience. It requires, probably more than anything else, adversity, you know, which we don't like. And I think what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the longer you've lived, the more of that feeling comes through in your playing. A kid who doesn't really have that life experience can play very well, technically, but it's almost like he doesn't have the substance in him to give it the feeling that an older person can, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I know I had such a good childhood and such a good life that I didn't experience a lot of stuff until, you know, more recently. And that's just, it's definitely more intense for me now than it used to be. And then especially if I just like really immerse in it and I'm present in it, it seems like it's a lot more. Afterwards, I'm like, wow, I feel like I just went through something, you know, like it's definitely, I don't know if that relates to what you said.
100%, because you're actually having an emotional experience, even though you're quote unquote just playing music.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you want to say more about any of the experiences you've gone through in the last few years that have really deepened the emotional quality of your playing?
I mean, my mom and my father passed away, so that's been really tough.
Yeah.
So it's like I feel like when I play there in the music, you know, it's like because they used to like when I would play to them, you know, so
in a strange way, you can kind of feel their presence in the music.
I feel like a communication to them. I feel like it opens like a gate to I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's comforting, you know, it's like a very comforting thing. And you know, and maybe it reminds me of those times when I was with them and I'd play for them and stuff, you know. But that's been definitely changed things, you know, a lot. And then I hurt my back pretty bad, and that was another pretty scary thing at the time. But like, again, like your tools, I used a lot of that to help me get through it, because I was in pain and I never got anything to get myself out of pain. But I knew that what caused it had to, on a deeper level, I didn't really know it, like in my own mind. I didn't sit and think about it, but I felt it like what caused this, you got to unravel, or that should be. And then I saw like a shooting star. I was like praying for guidance, like, what do I do? I can't even move, and then I got like a certain sense of like, okay, just try to, there's an answer, and I kind of just dealt with it. And I found that luckily the greatest thing was I found this book called Foundation, and that book I just went online and found the number of his name's Eric Goodman, and I called him and think he luckily answered the phone, and then I saw him, and immediately within the first 20 minutes of seeing him, I felt strength, like I felt stability again through his teaching, his exercises, and then his partner Peter Park. They both helped me so much so that.
And these were exercises that literally strengthened your back and your other muscles surrounding the back.
Yeah, they're really specific. Yeah. They're not people. A lot of people go, "Oh, it's like yoga," but it's really specific to like. I mean, I think it's like really. He somehow figured out a way to, for at least for my situation, it just strengthened all this stuff that it's very specific though. Like if you're off by a half of an inch or something, it changes the exercise. So I honestly felt like that gave me like a confidence too, because I was always weak in that area. I just didn't know it, but because and that's been another thing that like, because I learned about posture, which I've had really horrible posture. I've been shy and I'm tall, so they don't really go together very good. That's what.
It's hard to hide yourself.
Yeah, I tried, but so that just forced me to stand up straight, and it's incredible what I learned, and that's helped my playing a lot too. That's actually helped when I play classical, like. Because the posture is so important. That actually helped my hands, because then my neck, all the compressed nerves opened up because I wasn't hunched over anymore. So like it opened up my hands. And then that also makes it easier to play and let that flow happen, because I'm not constricted by, this is bothering me, this hurts, or all that kind of stuff. So that was like I really find that my back issue was the greatest, one of the best lessons I've ever had. But if I would have taken another path, or, if I just would have got out of pain, I wouldn't have changed my habits. So I'm so lucky that I didn't change. I changed. I didn't get a quick fix or something like that. And it's like my back's still whatever it is, but because of the way he devised those exercises, it strengthens, like you said, all the muscles. So I still have some stuff, but it's not even comparable. So those three things have been, the heart and my mom and dad, and then the back, those are all in the last 10 years. And that's what's weird, is the year 2009 was the year that I felt the strongest, like you and I had talked to you consistently. I felt the most, I showed up for myself. I never missed a day working out. Even when I got off tour, I kept my disciplines really strong. And then I hurt my back. And then it seems as if ever since then, it's just my consistency hasn't been the same. And that year is still like the blueprint for me of like, okay, I gotta get back to that place, But anyway, that's kind of.
It's interesting because you remind me of the change that I've seen in you. When I first met you, you were almost bowed over, like I wasn't sure I could see your face even, because you were looking down at the floor and you were kind of hunched over a little bit. And now when you walk in, you're tall, your chest is out, your face is showing, like everything is upright and strong. And there's obviously a physical component to that, where your posture was, terrible on your back, and it's so much stronger now. It's so clear that your body is actually supporting your back, and your back is supporting your body. But there's also a psychological component to it, where you're not hiding from the world, imagining, what it's going to do to you and afraid of it. You're like out there. You just kind of like your posture declares your presence in the world in a much more confident way than when I first met you.
Well, I mean, I think that all happened too because my mind started to change. Mm-hmm. Me, like you, all the stuff that you taught me or were teaching me or are teaching me, but it started to change and my body was still, it had to change.
Yeah.
Like it was weird when I think about it. It definitely was like, it can't be that way and be, I don't know if that makes any sense. It's almost
like your body said, hey, I want to catch up with where the mind is going here.
No, that seems totally real.
That's amazing. The other point I want to reinforce, because you made it so beautifully, is that sometimes adversity, like your back really broke down. I mean, you were in a lot of pain. And nobody likes to be in pain, but sometimes adversity can be the best thing that ever happened to you if it kicks your butt and makes you make changes that you really need to make in your life. I mean, in a weird way, it turned out to be a really good thing that happened.
It was. And I'm just so thankful that I didn't do what they were telling me to do.
Right. It was just to anesthetize the pain. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I wouldn't have learned this stuff because if you're not in pain, it just doesn't. So that's a huge thing, having that just to look back on and go, there was an answer, I mean, the shooting star, that was pretty powerful for me.
That was like a sign for you.
That's what it was for me. It just felt like, because I was so, in that moment, I was really like, I was just defeated and I was like, what do I do? I don't know what I'm going to do. I have no like confidence in my movement anymore. I felt like I was just going to crumble. And then I saw that and I'm like, okay, that was something to just give me some kind of like, I don't know what that word would be, some kind of like, just don't give up on
it was like encouragement.
Yeah,
it was like,
encouragement.
Move forward, do it. Yeah. Obviously, you've achieved a degree of fame, and I'm just wondering if there have been people who have suddenly felt entitled to rip you off or take advantage of you, and if that's ever happened, how have you handled it?
Well, I like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, I just, for one, like, was being, nobody knows who I, like, because of, I never get, like, some of my friends are famous. And I don't know if they would care either way, but I'm not ever recognized, really, so.
Right.
I don't really feel like I have any of that going on.
Right.
So what I see with how they have to deal with stuff,
Right.
But
that brings up a question that I wouldn't normally ask, but I just know your fans would be pissed if I didn't ask it. So your nickname is Buckethead, and it is Buckethead because you originally started playing on stage with a Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket over your head. Explain the genesis of that. Like, how did you come up with that idea?
I mean, it sort of happened just like, I mean, it wasn't something that I really thought about. I was eating my father. It was actually a different chicken company.
Oh.
It was just deli chicken. I don't even know what it was, but I was eating it. And I thought I had that mask, and I like Michael Myers, so it had a similar quality, but it wasn't exactly the same. So I just put it on my head, and I was like, I looked in the mirror, and I just was like, oh, that's bucket-headed, And then my friend went to school. He was going to college, and he had video class, and he filmed me, in that his Buckethead. And then I knew this writer at Guitar Player, and his name is Joe Gore, and he really is the one that I feel I owe a lot to, because I do owe a lot to. He encouraged me to do it. Is that like, you should just go be Buckethead, like go play, because I was always like super scared to play, and I didn't really link that together. I just thought, oh, this is weird, like a weird horror guy. I'd like to make a movie about it or something. And then when he's like, you should just go for it, and I was like, oh, yeah, that would be cool, because I could do everything I like doing as this character that I'm totally scared to death to do otherwise. Like, I couldn't do it, and it applied like all the stuff I like Disneyland and martial arts and dancing, all that kind of stuff I liked. And I was like, I can't do it just like me, so that it was easy to use it all. It's like, that was a great expressive way for me to like get all this stuff out.
That's so interesting. So really, in a way, you were like playing a character on stage,
but in a way I'm more myself.
Yes, because it allowed you to be more yourself. I was
so nervous to do that stuff,
right?
So it's almost like I was more that than I was me. I was more.
That's interesting. So it allowed you to actually express yourself in a more uninhibited way.
Yeah.
That's great. That's interesting.
And it's just fun. It's fun to me. It's like it's just a.
It is amazing to watch, because it's hard to understand how you can even play guitar. I mean, did you have eye holes or something that you could?
Sometimes, I don't.
Or do you get so used to?
Well, playing? Your hands. You just your hands. Anything, if you do it, you can sort of get used to it.
It's like your hands know what they're doing, irrespective.
I have a long way to go, so I don't think it's that far out there. But it's. Just like you turn it off, and like anything that you're probably when you're writing, you just don't have to really think about it.
Yeah.
What we were talking about earlier with the flow and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I blow it a lot too. So, and then I can't see because I have these eye things on, and it's hard to see, but I kind of like it because you talked about dusting the audience, and that's almost like dusting the audience without dusting the audience, because they're like, I can't really see, everything looks ghost-like, which is kind of, I like that actually.
Just so the listeners understand dust, everyone gets scared around performing, and I'm using the word performing very, very broadly. Performing can be getting up on stage like you do and playing to tens of thousands of people. Or it can be something as simple as talking to a girl who you're attracted to, or, just talking about a new subject where you're a little nervous about expressing yourself, or whatever. What inhibits us in those situations is exactly what we were talking about at the beginning, which is we care too much what the audience, and the audience could be 10,000 people, it could be one person, but we care too much what they think. And the moment we get into caring what they think, we get inhibited, because you'll never know what they think, and your mind is too occupied with scrutinizing them to find out what they think, and you lose touch with the flow that you need in order to perform well. And so dust is a tool where you cover the entire audience with a thick layer of dust. It's almost like they're dead. What it does is it renders the outside world non-emanating. There's nothing coming from them because they're covered with dust, type thing. And then the second step of the tool is, once you've dusted the audience, just see a fountain of light, but it's inside of you. It's inside of your heart. And your job is to go into the room and light up the room. So it's about you putting out rather than you getting anything back.
Yeah, that's great.
Who are the people, either in the music industry or outside of the music industry, who have, really inspired you? And what is it about them that inspired you?
You.
Oh, thank you.
In a humongous way, you've inspired me a lot. And
thank you.
I just don't know how you know what you know. It's totally insane. Like, I can't really comprehend it, but I mean, I think just seeing you and being around you, it's changed me in a way that I'm happy about, and not that it's about me, but from me personally, it's like having you. I'm amazed at how there's really nothing I've ever asked you that you didn't have an answer for, that I didn't, even if I didn't understand it in the moment, it didn't eventually come around to being. I mean, it's just wild. I just can't kind of comprehend it, not that I know a whole lot, but it's like pretty crazy. So you've inspired me a lot since I've known you. And I think about the things you've taught me a lot. They run through my mind a lot. And it's sometimes really randomly, like I won't even know. And then it'll, like a light bulb that comes on, I'm like, oh, and then I can handle something. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that applies exactly like to being inspired.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Oh, no.
I really appreciate it.
That's the absolute truth. Like, you're one of the greatest people I think there is,
Thank you.
For sure. And then Bootsy Collins, he's been like a mentor to me, and I was a huge fan of his as a kid. And then my friend Brain got him a videotape of me, gave it to Bill Laswell, and Bill Laswell gave it to Bootsy. And that really changed my life because I got to meet Bootsy, and he became like, he guided me through so much stuff, and he did it in a way that was so, just, it was always from a place of feeling, not a place of like, you should do this because then you can get this. And it was always from a heavy kind of place of something that almost like a magical place, and I always felt intense spiritual feeling with him, like always, just to even now when I talk, it's always been there. And it's hard to believe because that's like one of my heroes. And then he befriends me and looks out for me. And so and then there's like, I really love Michael Jordan. I have this poster in my room I still have it on my wall. It's like, he just talks about how he, in his career, he's missed all these shots, and over again, I fail, and that's why I succeed. And that poster really I love that because it just gives you that feeling of like, you just go for it. Don't see the failure as like a green light and not, a red light, just like, okay. And then there's a guitar player I love, Paul Gilbert. The first time I saw him play was at the NAMM show. And this is the one memory that I always go to. And he was at the NAMM show and he was in a booth and he was playing. And I went there to see Yngwie, who I was like, at that time, his album just came out and he was the baddest. And then Paul was in some booth and he was just it was insane. He was just ripping, and he's just sitting there in this booth, and like, I just never seen, he had so much control, but he was also, it's just like you had said to me one time, a long time ago, the best way to, plant a seed or inspire somebody is by flowing in front of them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what that was. Like, he was just doing it, and it just to this day, it's still the most intense memory I have of like anyone playing that makes me want to rip, Mm-hmm. And it's like, I wish I had a video of that, of anything. But, and the crazy thing was I got to know him and he taught me, and I have every lesson I still have all the lessons, and and he really gave me a belief in myself that I needed, because I wasn't around a lot of that. So it was incredible to have. I mean, my parents were super supportive, but
you weren't around a lot of musicians.
Yeah, well, people that were like, the way he was encouraging, and honestly, more than anything, it was just seeing him and how he more than even him teaching me was how he dealt with his environment, because he lived in this tiny little apartment, and it was just nothing touched him. He wasn't even aware. He just was so focused on playing, and that was so huge, and he just was a great teacher. He is a great teacher, but and at that time I was lucky because he accepted me to take lessons from him. And luckily my mom and dad drove me to him, because he was pretty far away. But like just being around him and getting to see that, like when you talk about momentum, and that was pure momentum. Like he was just like a laser focus. And it was incredible to have been around him at that time, and but
it's so interesting to go back to the discussion of identity, because it sounds like what really inspired you is that his identity was organized around the music, not the apartment he lived in or anything else.
Yeah. And I mean, even seeing him at that NAMM show in that booth, it was like he was just gone, he was just, I don't know what he would say about it, but to me, that was the baddest thing I've ever seen. Because it was just somebody at the peak of what they could do, and they're just doing it. Like seeing Michael Jordan or Bruce Lee, or to me, it's like there's those moments, like those are kind of things that they don't leave, because at least for me, they don't leave my mind, because that was seeing somebody in that flow state,
Yeah, you're seeing someone give their all to something. It almost doesn't matter what it is, but when you see someone give everything that they have to something, it's inspiring. It makes you want to be that good.
It did, seriously. I mean, I try to get my fingers to look like his fingers, I think my fingers grew after I saw him, because he's got crazy fingers, So.
It's amazing.
But there's another guitar player, Sean Lane. He passed away, but it's beyond guitar. He's like just a super, like, he's just like from outer space. I don't know. He was probably the most incredible musician I've ever seen or heard, and just like totally, it's beyond what I even can understand. But I got to hang around him a few times, and he was like, he took so much information, and I've never seen anything like that, like where he could just read many books in a day, and he had just like a memory where he could remember everything. And anyway, that's that's a long story to get into, but he is an insane inspiration. It's sad he's gone, but he's not gone in a lot of ways, like he's probably, I think the people like that, their energy is way beyond their physical self. I mean, I think he'll be around forever, because it's just too big. Like Bruce Lee is around. Like there's just certain people that transcend, like Jimi Hendrix, like their energy's bigger than their physical. That's how I see it,
Well, it goes back to what you said about when you play, you feel like your parents are, in a way, their energy is playing through you in a certain sense.
Yeah, that's true.
You have any questions for me? Anything you want to ask?
I want to know if what you want. I mean, what are the things you see that I'm not doing, that I could be doing better? And the thing with my heart is definitely like, it rattles my cages or whatever, it's like pretty intense. I guess how to handle that, or how to, because, I get scared sometimes of a stroke or dying or whatever. And I mean, I guess that's when I'm pretty weak, but like I'll work out now, and my heart, like I'll feel pains that I never felt. And those things are like, they kind of are just there now. So I know we talked about it a little before, but I'd say those two things.
Yeah.
I don't know if those are good questions.
They're great questions. Look, I'm not an MD, so you've got to consult with a doctor about the medications and what you should be doing for your physical heart. But beyond that, yes, there's something that I really want you to do in the most disciplined way you possibly can, which is worrying about your heart won't help your heart. In fact, it'll probably hurt your heart. So when you find yourself interrupting a flow state, like you'll be playing guitar or writing in your journal or something, and thinking or worrying about your heart when you're not really going to do anything about it at that moment, number one, I want you to give part X a resounding fuck you. And number two, I want you to immediately turn your attention to what you were doing and throw yourself into it as if your life depended on it. Because it does. You know, your spirit depends on it. Your music depends on it. Everything that you were born to do depends on it. And there has to be almost like a little bit of a sense of urgency about that. And I think part of what you brought up earlier and what you've said to me before is that this whole decade of dealing with physical problems, but especially this heart thing, has given you more of a sense of like life is precious. And I want you to put that into this decision to turn your attention back to whatever it is you were doing and not let your mind fall prey to worry. Again, take care of yourself, but worry isn't taking care of yourself. It's just fucking with your mind, that kind of thing. So I would say that, and I would say that in general, you had that year in 2009, which for a lot of different reasons, everything came together and you were disciplined. And sometimes that's easy. You know, you have a year where that just happens. You're closer to it now than I think you've ever been before, but be tougher on yourself about everything. Just tougher. Catch yourself quicker when part X gets you to worry about your heart. Be more disciplined about how you organize your time. Bring the kind of focus and urgency to it that says, I'm taking my life really seriously. I know I'm going to die at some point. So this moment matters. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Thanks.
Good.